Hey, it's Sarah from Indivisible Utah County. Tonight we're going to talk about what you can do today, some actionable things we can all do to help keep ICE out of Utah. They're already here, but we want to push back in any way we possibly can and keep our community safe. Now, quick legal disclaimer. If you have immigration law concerns or any specific legal questions, please go get that actual legal advice from an attorney. We've put together what we hope is helpful information for the general person who wants to do good in their community, but we're not lawyers. So if you need specific advice, please go get that. With that said, so one of the first things we want to talk about is what you should do if you hear about ICE activity. Now, we all know that ICE is active in Utah. So when we hear a rumor that ICE is in the area, because we are humans who love people and care about people, our knee-jerk reaction sometimes is to just spread the word. We want to let people know of even the slightest possibility of danger so they can be aware. But we really would love for everyone to take a moment and breathe and commit to not post online about ICE without a full salute. What does that mean? It's an acronym, a list of things that you should know for facts before you blast online with information about ICE that may be incomplete or incorrect and cause panic and harm rather than help the people that we would like to help. So salute, I apologize, this graphic is a little bit small and difficult to read, but salute stands for S, size and strength. How many ICE or other federal agents can you see? Is this 2 guys? Is it 20 guys? That's important to note. A for activity and action. What is happening? Is it a traffic stop? Is an employee being pulled out of a business? ICE is here is not super helpful. Be specific and say what you see federal agents doing. Location. This is very important. You need to be much more specific than just a city. Saying that ICE is in Harriman. Well, okay, can you give a street address? What are these agents wearing? Are they in the local law enforcement uniform, which, here in Utah County, we'll talk more about 287Gs in a moment, you may see people carrying out immigration activity that are dressed in the same uniform as our local police because they are acting as one and the same in some places. Are they wearing things that say ICE, that say CPB, that just say police, or maybe none of these things at all? Specifying what we see them wearing is important. Time and date, possibly the most important of all. We'll talk about that in a moment, but please give a time of day and the date on anything that you post. This is absolutely essential. And equipment and weapons. I think we all know that ICE is generally going to be armed to the teeth. They are carrying a lot of weapons, but can you specify how many vehicles and what those vehicles look like? That is all very important for people to know. Now, I wanted to share some bad examples, and I want to be clear that I don't want to shame people, and I thought I would start off by a screenshot of a post I shared last summer to make the point that when many people are sharing these rumors or what they think might be good information about ICE, it comes from a place of wanting to do good, but we all need to learn better so we can do better. So this was me last summer. We saw a really weird thing that to this day, I don't think it was unreasonable to think it was ICE just because it was so odd in our area. We never heard anything about it or saw anyone detained. So clearly it ended up not being something I should have alerted. But I was concerned, so I threw down this ICE alert, little itty bitty caption, EM at Pony Express and Ranches. Mark filming and trying to confirm. Our group was smaller back then, so I think most people knew that Mark is one of our co-leaders. This is really bad. This is not responsible ICE alerting. It is not. I don't have what these people are wearing. I don't have what vehicles they are in. I don't have anything specific that they're doing. This is not good ICE reporting. Let's go to another one. So here it is. ICE is in Hurricane. Tell your friends. It doesn't matter who you are. They are kidnapping and hurting everyone. Completely agree. ICE is doing terrible things. But this is not an example of a responsible way to post about ICE. They've got a location that if you're in Hurricane, maybe you know where that is, but there's no date and there's no time. And this could be reposted and reshared for days, weeks, and months and cause panic. If you clearly have that this happened on February 5th, 2026, then even if this does get reposted, because we've all been in this situation where Facebook shows us a post about an event and you're like, thanks, Facebook, that was 4 days ago. This is a common thing on social media. We need to make sure that date is very clear. So then by chance, if someone does see it, even if it was good information a week ago, that's going to cause panic a week from now if this is no longer relevant. So please, 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 that date is so important. So just to emphasize, what should you do? Suppose you do see something saying, we think that we see ICE vehicles at this hotel. Don't repost it. Go to the area yourself or quietly alert someone you know and trust nearby there if it's in a city that's far from you, and see if you can get that full salute. Send someone, if you can do so safely, to go with their phone to get pictures of these things, to get video, to confirm or deny whatever you saw posted. And once you have that complete information, alerting the community is a good thing to do. But let's all please make sure we can get that full salute. Don't repost. Go find out more. So here's an example, all nice and color-coded with the acronym for salute. And I made this kind of silly on purpose because I wouldn't want anyone to think this was real. But it is actually a good example of what a salute-worthy report would entail. So at 2:15 p.m. on Friday, February 31st, I saw 5 agents in dark jeans and hoodies and ski masks. At least 2 wore black vests that said Police ICE on the back. They appeared to be detaining a man in the southeast corner of the Smith's parking lot at 500 West Bluewood Road in Utahville. They arrived in 2 unmarked black SUVs. And there's a photo. This was actually taken from Minneapolis. But so here you go. You have this complete, specific information so that people know exactly what is happening, where it is happening, and there's photo or video that can document the proof, which is even more helpful. Now, if you want a real life example of someone doing it right, you may be familiar with TJ. Her Instagram handle is Ducks and Clucks. She does incredible ICE watch work in Utah. Highly recommend a follow, both to stay in the know about what ICE is doing in Utah, as well as examples of how to report ICE responsibly. In addition to responsible ICE reporting, a big thing that you can do is this idea of adopting a corner. Some of you guys may have seen Indivisible recently did an online training called Eyes on ICE. It was excellent. They have several presenters, several experts and organizers come and speak. One of them was Pablo Alvarado. He's with the National Day Laborer Organizing Network. And he emphasized how having relationships of genuine friendship and trust with the immigrants in your area exponentially expands your ability to help. Because for very good reason, a lot of our immigrant friends and neighbors are frightened. They are probably not going to trust a stranger, especially a white stranger. If you happen to be white like I am, you may genuinely want to help, but you can't help someone who doesn't know and trust you, at least not nearly as well. In the Indivisible training, he spoke specifically about who are the immigrants in your community? Where are they? Are there businesses? Are there churches? Are there areas where immigrants or people at risk of ICE detaining and targeting them? Who are they and where are they? Do you know them? If not, go get to know them. Go frequent their businesses. Go become a real friend and ally in meaningful ways. Make sure you know their names. I mean, this can sound like a big ask, but that's why it's adopt a corner. You don't need to get to know every single immigrant in a large city if you live in one of the bigger cities in Utah, but we can all reach out immediately around us, and that's a huge deal to do. A really good way that you can do this is through business canvassing. We are so grateful to Comunidades Unidas, apologies because I'm not a Spanish speaker, but they are a fantastic organization doing incredible, impactful, meaningful work up mainly in the Salt Lake area. We were able to go do their business canvassing training this past week where you meet with people from the organization who give you a short training in how to do this, which I will try to give a very short version of here. We have these signs that say no ICE allowed. ICE cannot enter private areas of this business without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. QR code that goes to some really important know your rights information. ICE out of Utah. So having these signs up in businesses is really cool because it shows solidarity. Like, let's normalize that we do not like ICE. That's not a taboo or scary thing to say out loud. We should all be saying it, right? It can definitely feel scary, not to minimize that. But having these signs up in businesses is fantastic for that reason alone. But far more importantly is the potential to keep employers and their employees safe. So as you go out, the way that we would suggest you do it, you say, hi, I'm, tell them your name. We're trying to help keep businesses safe from ICE violence and would love to leave you with a sign and some information about your rights. Are you a good person to talk to about that? And if you walk in and talk to an employee, they might be like, oh, my manager should be the one, or maybe they'll be like, sure. However that goes down, see if you can get to a person who is willing and able to talk. And what we provided, if you came to the in-person version tonight, if not, we can provide these PDFs or the file for the bigger no ICE sign. What is super important? So we have the signs that you saw on that slide that would be fantastic to be placed in a front window or somewhere easily visible, wherever the business is comfortable. Maybe they're not comfortable at all, but you can leave them with the sign. But even if not that, especially these folders that we have created that have these files from Comunidades Unidas, and what they have in them is a packet of information, knowing your rights as a business. If ICE shows up, what should you do? It has 2 pages in English and then the exact same thing, 2 pages in Spanish. So it's 4 pages that we have stapled together in these folders. On the other side of the folder is a handout that explains judicial versus Department of Homeland Security or immigration warrants. It shows the differences because it's really important that businesses know and understand a couple of things about their rights. You need to have a judicial warrant signed by a judge to go into a private area of a business or a home or an otherwise, non-public area and take a person. You cannot just crash through someone's door. Unfortunately, we're seeing that Fourth Amendment right be violated, but as much as possible, we want to cling to what we know the Constitution says that they can and cannot do. It's important that employers know that they need to have their area that is for employees only marked that way. It needs to say employees only, team members only. It needs to be clearly delineated so that there is no question of what is a public versus private space in a business, like the front tables and area of a restaurant versus the kitchen, the back, employee rooms, etc. So explaining that, giving the sign, the handout, and the one that shows the differences between a judicial warrant and an immigration warrant. You'll see that one is signed by a judge, one's going to be signed by just some immigration official. It needs to have the exact name of the person, the current date, the date of the day that it is. All of these things need to be there, and you can ask for that before someone can simply come into a private area and detain an individual. And in our folders, we have this one, as well as on the flip side, a similar version in Spanish. As we talk about this Adopt Your Corner, I'm expanding a bit on what the Indivisible training had. In your corner, what does typical law enforcement look like? Utah County Sheriffs are out here, and it's not unusual, right, to see them driving around here and there. But it is extremely unusual to see a whole bunch in one place at one time. That raises your eyebrows, right? Or maybe to see people in different uniforms than the typical ones you would expect your local law enforcement. Knowing what law enforcement looks like in your area, what their vehicles look like, what their uniforms look like, where they tend to be, can all be really important information that can help clue you into what is not typical. Something we also need to discuss are 287G agreements. I know many of you in Utah County are well aware of what these are, unfortunately. 287G agreements exist on 3 levels that an area could enter into any of those 3 or all of them. They allow collaboration between federal agents like ICE and local law enforcement. It can be very difficult to tell if your regular local law enforcement officer is just that, or if they are operating as an ICE agent, because 287G agreements make them in practice one and the same. That erodes trust in law enforcement for everyone. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. But as it happens, there are areas throughout Utah that have these agreements in place, including Utah County as of last summer. Knowing if your area has them in place can help inform how alarmed you should be when you see law enforcement and assessing how much of a threat that could be to the immigrant community. You can go to acluutah.org at their 287G agreements in Utah page, and you can look at this map and see specifically where in Utah has these agreements and which of the 3 or all of the 3 levels they have entered into. And the last thing with Adopt Your Corner is, who are the safe people in your immediate area? It sounds really hokey and simplistic to say that, oh, well, getting to know your neighbors is important right now, but it actually really is. As we have been seeing other cities deal with large-scale ICE deployments, like Minnesota right now, Chicago, North Carolina, it's been really cool to see the way that local groups have organized. We want to be sure that if you were to form any type of rapid response group down the line, that the people in those are safe people that are really on our side, that want to help. And it's difficult to know that about strangers on the internet, even social media. You just don't always know. The best way to know who is a safe person is to have actual personal relationships. So hopefully you know some of your neighbors, but maybe you don't. I know that's something I want to work on, Maybe the guy who walks his dog a lot, maybe you should find out what that man's name is if he's 2 doors down from you. Building these relationships, knowing who the safe people are, so when needs to protect our community arises, we know who to call and maybe who not to call, who can be helpful, who is really looking out for the immigrants in our neighborhoods. So that wraps up our kind of 3-part ask for, adopting a corner, getting to know your neighbors, law enforcement, and local businesses and other immigrant areas in wherever you live. Our third and final big thing we would ask everyone in Utah to do is to stay loud about the ICE facility plans in Utah. Many of you have been following this and are well aware, but quick recap. There's been rumors and leaks about a potential ICE facility in Utah for the past couple of months. And more recently, there was a spreadsheet that was leaked that had a bunch of locations throughout the United States, as well as dates of planned site visits by DHS. And lots of these dates on these spreadsheets ended up actually happening in other places, which led us in Utah to believe, okay, this is possibly the real deal. The warehouse that was listed was an actual warehouse. It was slated to be a mega facility that can hold 7,500 people. So what did we do? People threw down a protest at the location, at that warehouse, at the planned time of the site visit, which we don't believe happened at the time it was supposed to have happened, but potentially people came by later. Anyway, we had this really powerful protest. It was freezing. It was the craziest, thickest fog I've ever seen in my life, but people showed up. We then found out who was the entity that was going to either lease or sell this warehouse to Department of Homeland Security. They were called the Ritchie Group. We went and protested out in front of their office to let everyone know that Utah is not okay with companies or groups that want to profit off of human suffering. We encouraged people to reach out on their contact us form on their website, through emails, let them know loud and clear that Utahns do not want this detention facility in our state. And the good news, they then later came out, the Ritchie Group said they have no plans to sell. So that's incredible. Hooray. Collective action works. These protests, all the contacting of Ritchie Group, it worked, and that was really cool. So we should be celebratory about that, but we should also be very aware that this is not over yet. In Utah, we need to be vigilant. We need to make sure that if another proposed property or warehouse is announced, that we get out there loud and clear, just like last time, if not more so. The thing about an ICE facility in Utah, it's obviously a terrible thing, but if it is built here, they will fill it. They will send more and more ICE personnel and resources to Utah, and the harm to our community who is at risk would be tremendous. So ICE is already here, no question, but if they were to build a mega facility here, things would become so much worse. So we cannot overstate how important it is that we all do everything we can to push back against any more plans that we find out about for this facility in our state. And that is all that we have. So just to recap, the 3 asks that we have are responsible ICE reporting, using that SALUTE acronym to make sure that before you post anything online that could cause unnecessary fear and panic, you are listing out all of those things specifically and clearly, especially having that date and time on anything so it can't be reshared and cause unnecessary panic down the line. Our second is the idea of adopting a corner, making sure you know the immigrants in your area, what law enforcement typically looks like in your area, and who safe people are that you could begin to network with and to form plans on how you keep your community safe. And the final thing is staying super loud about any plans we see to have an ICE facility in Utah. That cannot happen. We will not allow it to happen. Collective action. It can feel like you're just one small person screaming into the void sometimes, but we already showed that Salt Lake City, that Utah could come together and prevent this thing. Let's keep up the good work. So thank you. Those are just a handful of things that are actionable and that we can all do to help keep Utah safe and to keep ICE away.